Miss Cruz, there are attack ads being run by your opponent, Mr. Moylan, on the radio stations now. Your comments on that?
Well, it's concerning. I really was hoping that we would have a legitimate debate about policy issues, because that's what the people of Guam want to know. This is the most important position when it comes to federal policies, which affect everything, our cost of living, so many things that are happening on our island. And it's disappointing that they decided to start slinging mud and lies this early in the campaign season.
So one of the things that he asserts in the campaign ad is that your company, Mantid, dumped $200,000 into your campaign. Is there something you'd like to clarify about that?
Sure. Well, for starters, anybody, including Moylan, who understands the Federal Election Commission regulations knows that companies cannot donate to congressional candidates. It's a fact. I mean, it doesn't even happen. So that's patently untrue. The second thing is...
It's a lie.
It's not only a lie, it shows his complete lack of understanding of the Federal Election Commission regulations, which are just two things that I think are incredible.
So Mantid did not
donate
$200,000
did not donate a penny to my campaign. I have a retirement account with my husband, and once we decided that we were going to run for this office, we decided that we were going to take a loan out against our retirement account and invest that money in the campaign, because I'm not going to ask other people to donate to my campaign if I'm not willing to do it myself. I want to do this for the people of Guam. This is the future of Guam. And I'm not only going to put my energy and my experience into it, I'm also going to put my savings into it along with my donors to show people, by setting an example, that I am going to invest in my campaign, and I hope other people will too.
And this information can be found on your financial disclosures.
Absolutely. All filed with the Federal Election Commission. Anybody can pull it up.
The other assertion that he makes is that you are, well, the main assertion that he makes is that you are running for Congress so that you can avail of or have some sort of one-up on federal contracting opportunities.
I have no idea. Like, that is so completely fabricated. It is not even understandable. So first of all, if I am lucky enough to get elected by the people of Guam, that will be my full-time job. I will need to, under the congressional ethics regulations, get myself out of my business. We will either sell it or we will hand it off and give it to another party, and it will not be my business anymore. I will not have anything to do with it. And I was the Deputy Inspector General for Iraq Reconstruction. This is what I did for a living my entire life. I was the kid that wore the safety patrol orange ribbon on myself when I was in 3rd grade at Harmon Loop Elementary School, right? My life has been...
You told on the bad kids.
I did. Has been ethics my entire life. I have been the most ethical person, and I was always the one enforcing the ethics. So I can guarantee the people of Guam, when I decided that I was going to run for Congress, my husband and I got an ethics lawyer to make sure that we are going to do the right thing, to make sure that we remove ourselves from, and in the federal government, they call it even the appearance of impropriety. So there is one level, which is you remove yourself from any direct impropriety, right? So if there's a conflict of interest, you don't do it. I'm going to go one step better. I am going to remove myself from the appearance of impropriety. So I am very hopeful that I'm going to get the voters' confidence. And at that point, I am going to be completely retired out of Mantid International. There are other partners, and they are going to take it and do what they will of it. And it has business around the world, not on Guam. So it will continue on its own completely without me and without my husband.
The nexus that he uses to make the accusation, I don't understand the connection, but maybe you can shed some light on this. Mm-hmm. The nexus he uses is a Malwar contract, supposedly with federal funds regarding debris removal. You want to say anything about that?
So I do not hold any contracts with the federal government. Mantid International has never held a contract with the federal government.
Oh, okay.
And so, I mean, we actually, at the beginning of the Malwar recovery, we were talking to various companies who were coming into Guam. We weren't even working for them. They were just asking if we knew people who could be hired to help up with the cleanup. So we were telling the FEMA guys, we were telling the governor's office, hey, there's these companies that FEMA's bringing in and they're looking for people to hire. I was literally passing along the information to help get the island cleaned up. It had nothing to do with my business. It had nothing to do with anything else. And we literally do not have one single contract with the federal government, never have, currently don't. So he's literally making these things up. And the thing that I find disturbing about it, though, let me talk about Mawar just for 1 second here. Because at the time of Mawar, I almost immediately came up with this idea that it was the perfect time to ask to put Guam's power underground.
I remember that.
Because you have the Navy, you have the Air Force, and we got really excited. I called up Simon Sanchez at the Utilities Commission. We started to work on it. We talked to the governor, we talked to the chamber. I even talked to Congressman Moylan, right? Moved forward. The Guam Power Authority did a great job. They pulled it together. They went to FEMA, and they're really trying to move this forward. And do you know what I've heard now that is the most disturbing thing? I heard that Moylan's office, on purpose, is trying to stall getting Guam's power underground because he doesn't want Ginger to get the credit. How sad is that? That you would rather see the people of Guam not get our power put underground and not push to get the funding that the people of Guam need because you want to win an election and you don't want the person running against you to look good? I mean, that's kind of classic, but that's what we're up against.
Did you hear this from federal sources?
I actually heard it from people at GPA who said that they go into these meetings and that the congressman's office is missing in action and is not supporting what they're doing.
I'll follow that with the congressman's office. Thank you for that. So,
all right.
I know that candidates typically prefer to present themselves as the underdog, but there's a poll that shows that you're the furthest thing from the underdog. There's a poll that shows that you're the front runner in the race. So with that in mind, are you surprised by these attacks? How do you feel about Congressman Moylan's character and credibility after hearing these attacks on the radio?
So I've spent a lot of time really studying his office because now we're in the general election, and I wanted to understand why there have been so many critical failures that have come out of the Washington delegate office, right? The loss of compact impact funds, the fact that we were not able to get the downwinder compensation through the House, even though it made it through a bipartisan Senate, and so many other things, right? Bills to nowhere, just amendments that are thrown in there and then they're found non-germane, so they're thrown out. And I'm like, why is the office failing? And the deeper that I dig, the more I understand that there are some deep structural failures of that office, which mean they don't have a plan. They don't have an office that is organized to be able to do the work of creating legislation and getting solutions for the people of Guam. And so without a plan and without the ability to do the work that you're supposed to be doing in Washington, am I surprised that the only thing that they can do is throw mud and lies and try and make me look bad and create all of this negative campaigning about me personally? I'm absolutely not surprised. Because what is it that they could say? I mean, if he actually, you know, when you go to look for his website, his campaign website, it says Jim Moylan for senator. He doesn't even have a Jim Moylan for Congress campaign website. I mean, if he's serious about his job, right, you cannot use your official office to campaign. That's a huge ethical violation. And by the way, the Ethics Committee in the US Congress is currently investigating that exact allegation. So if you're serious about your job, then you need to have serious people, you need to have a serious plan, and you need to be able to not only demonstrate results, but also explain what's your plan? What are you doing for the people of Guam? And if you can't do that, and the only thing that you can do is throw mud at me, then I'm not surprised that the people of Guam are smart voters. They are looking at what the options are. And I hope to goodness that that's what the polls are reflecting. The polls, I hope, are reflecting that the people of Guam are smart. They are looking at this as a job interview. And I hope for us, for all of us, that the decision that's made at the ballot box on November 5th is the best decision for the people of Guam.
Can we go back to something that you just raced through, saying that I think we may have buried the lead here?
Sure.
An ethics investigation into Mr. Moylan's office? Does this have to do with the campaign, well, the campaign-looking commercials that are being paid for by the federal government? What's going on?
So there are several allegations that are swirling. And of course, because it's in the process of being investigated by the Ethics Commission, nobody will talk about the specifics. But I have spoken with at least 6 people that have worked in that office or are currently working in that office and received, independent verification on my own that there are ongoing investigations into allegations. I'm not saying that it's adjudicated. I'm not saying that, they'll be found correct or not correct. But I do know that there have been allegations. I do know that they are active. And I do know that people in that office have been questioned by investigators from the Ethics Committee.
I will follow on that. Thank you.
All right.
This morning I reached out to Bobby Stringy, who is the chief of staff for Mr. Moylan,
Mm-hmm.
and I asked him about the commercials, and I said, uh, how do your accusations hold water when members of Congress are forbidden from participating in federal contracting? And his response to that was that because you would have information ahead of time, you would be able to influence outcomes, and that's how you would be able to enrich yourself. You want to comment on that?
So there are federal laws. There are 541 members of Congress, all of the senators, all of the representatives, all of the territories. And all of us have spouses who have jobs. All of us came from one thing or another, many of us from the private sector. There are laws in place that protect against that. But beyond that, I am 59 years old. My entire career has been impeccable. Everything I have ever done has been demonstration of the highest level of ethics, the highest level of integrity. I have held top secret clearances. I have held the faith and trust of the United States government, and I stand by that. My reputation is clear. I cannot say that for a lot of the other people that are tossing around these types of allegations. So for them to sort of act like, oh, I'm just like everybody else that, has some skeleton lurking in my closet, I can guarantee you there are no skeletons. I do not have a closet. I am an open book. I am transparent. And everything that I have done, I have stood up to bullies. Have I been accused of things? Of course, because when you stand up to bullies, people throw garbage at you all the time, which is why I say we use the truth to take out the trash. But anything anyone wants to ask, any wild accusation or garbage that people are getting on their WhatsApp messages or they're hearing from somebody, I have headquarters right across from Looping Beach Towers. I am happy to talk to anyone. And you know what? After 59 years, another thing that I do, I keep records. I have records, I have documents, I have people that you can call, because I also know sometimes you need more than your own word, you need the actual proof. And I am happy to provide proof to anybody. But one thing I can guarantee all of the voters of Guam, I have and will always maintain the highest level of ethics. And if people give me the honor of representing them in Washington, D.C., not only will I be ethical, I will actually be effective, unlike the current office.
Uh, Thank you for bringing up the so-called garbage that swirls on social media, because where campaigns are unable to make these garbage-like accusations, they happen in rumors and in water cooler talk. And so I wanted to ask if you can address two of those things that swirl. One is the Inspector General report that your detractors accuse you of mishandling billions of dollars in your former position in Iraq. And the other is that you're a witch. Can you address both of these?
So both of those allegations came out of the same group of disgruntled and angered folks. So when I was working at the Special Inspector General for Iraq Reconstruction, we put in jail and we took contracts away from incredibly powerful people. The investigations and the audits that we did resulted in hundreds of millions of dollars of losses for a lot of people, and some people who went to jail. And so the enemies that we made along the way were significant. And there were a lot of people who actively were trying to shut down the office and stop us from doing the work that we did. And we did not stop. And I remember at the time I was in Washington and people were telling me, Ginger, don't go up against these people. They're going to trash your reputation. You're going to lose your job. You're going to spend all your money on attorney's fees. Just bow out. Just close the office down. Don't stand up to these guys. And you know what I said? Same thing I learned from Guam, right? You don't tell somebody who's lived in Georgia and grew up in Dededo, you don't tell me to back down. I'm like, no, I'm doing the right thing. So I didn't back down. So we did the right thing and I prevailed. Now, I can't say that it was easy. And yes, all sorts of garbage came out in the media. There was an article that came out in the Washington Post. It was written by a woman named Robin Wright. She was best friends with a retired ambassador who we ended up terminating. And of course, that personal relationship comes into play. And the next thing you know, she ran an article, and you're a journalist. She ran an article basically without ever talking to me saying, oh, Ginger Cruz, she has candles on her desk and she's a witch. I'm like, absolutely. And they were thinking, because I was working in Iraq at the time, and because I was having to go in and meet with prime ministers, and there was the whole delicacy of people who were, religious, and you have to be careful as a woman in the Middle East. You can't touch somebody, and so she was thinking if she threw out this thing, oh, Ginger's a witch, that it would negatively affect my ability to do my job as I was traveling into these countries.
So that's the context.
So she threw that out. It's absolute garbage.
So it is not true.
It is not
You've never
true.
been a witch. You're not a witch.
It is not true. I've been through all the sacraments. I am very happy to be a Catholic. Am I a fully practicing Catholic? Do I go to church every Sunday? No. But do I go to church on all of the important occasions? Absolutely. And I am very grateful for the Catholic upbringing that I got from the Sisters of Mercy at St. Anthony and Academy. And it's so much a part of my life. I pray to God multiple times a day and thank him for many opportunities, including the opportunity to run for office.
When you've heard these rumors over the years about yourself, I mean, how did you take it? Did you laugh? Did you get upset? Now that when you hear it coming up in the campaign, are you just exasperated? What's going on in your head when you hear these things?
So this is pretty much something that happens to any strong woman who tries to make a difference. A man wouldn't go through a lot of the same charges that a woman does, right?
Yep.
I mean, you're looking what's happening to Kamala Harris, the same sort of a thing, right? They attack your race, they attack how you look, they attack your competence, they attack every single thing you say.
That they would not attack a man for.
You'd never call a man a wizard, you know what I mean? Or right? Oh, but a woman's a witch. I mean, come on, in Salem, it didn't work. Some woman was helping out another woman, and the next thing you know, they were hanging women in Boston back in the 1700s, right? So this is something as old as time. And I will say that we've come a long way, baby. A lot of women have been able to do great things. And I think we're finally really starting to change that. And I'm hoping that that's an inspiration for younger women, but it still exists. So it's something I've dealt with my entire life. I am used to it. And that is why, people say, oh, take the high road. Okay, I am going to use the truth. So every time someone throws one of these crazy accusations, if it's anonymous, if it's lurking in the back of the internet where you need a roach motel to get rid of it, right? If you don't know who's putting their name to it, you can pretty much guarantee that it's a lie and it's being spun because there's some man behind it who is afraid that there's somebody who's going to take their job. There's somebody who's going to do a good job instead of them. There's somebody who's actually fighting to make things better. And that usually is the case. So I'm used to it. I've seen it all, been there, done that. I mean, I worked for Carl Gutierrez. Do you know how many attacks we had in our office and what we had to deal with? I mean, it was quite a lot of stuff that we had to deal with. So, it's unfortunate. It's a part of politics. I wish it wasn't, because then people could talk about what was important. What are our problems on this island? What are the strategies for addressing that? How can we all work together to solve them? That's really where we need to be. And all this other stuff, it's a sideshow. And if people want to enjoy the sideshow, go ahead and enjoy the sideshow. I am going to make sure that the truth comes out. So as these lies come out, I'm going to knock them down. I've got a truth tab on my website. So I did that from the very beginning. So I said, if you go to my website, you can read about me, you can read my platform, and then there's also a tab that says the truth. And you click on it, and everything that people say that's not true, I will make sure we put a piece up there that gives them the truth, that gives them links to the truth so they can actually see proof of it, and really try and keep the dialogue so that people are armed with the facts and are not just speculating about people who are angry, who are jealous, who are unable to come up with a better idea. So instead, they have the crab syndrome and they just want to drag everybody down. And we don't need that on Guam. We need to lift each other up. We have too many problems. We need to find solutions.
www.gingercruz.com, is that correct?
That is correct. And there's a bunch of tabs on the top, and truth is one of them.
Ms. Cruz, I look forward to the next 60 days of asking you and Jim Moylan about your plans for Guam. Thank you so much for your time, Ms. Cruz. God bless you.
And thank you so much for what you do, keeping everybody informed. I appreciate it, and I really enjoy watching.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.